We are back. New York City baseball, past, present, and future. My name is Ralph Tyko. My co-hosts are Marty Rose and Alan Blumkin. Welcome back, guys. This is a good thing we got going. 5, 6, 8 weeks going. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing pretty well. As I said, I was up late here watching the basketball game last night. Basketball is my second favorite sport because, growing up here, as you well know, all you needed was a hoop and a basketball. You didn't need much to in the way of equipment to play.
It's definitely a city sport. There's no question about it.
I follow the Knicks, who have been mostly terrible over their 70-year history. And between the Knicks and the Nets here this year, both of them were completely unwatchable. So
right.
I enjoyed watching at least some of the time last night, some of these guys who were at the top of their game.
Well, isn't it ironic that Phil Jackson, who started as a Knick, was a Knick on some of those really great teams, a reserve, and he was hurt one year, but very good off the bench, solid New York Knick, goes on to a coaching career par excellence with every other team. I mean, beat Patrick's, the Bulls beat Patrick's Knicks handedly time after time, and finally it goes on to the Lakers. He's successful. Finally, we get him as a Knick coach. And
Knick GM. And a lot of time managing or coaching does not translate into being a successful GM. And, I can point to Ralph Houck when he went from manager to GM in the Yankees after 1963. And he was a disaster as a GM.
That's true. But then again, it was a different team. They were
all
planning to sell.
Yeah.
They didn't have the farm system going.
Once the owners,
the owners were,
Once
they were about to sell out to CBS.
Yeah, they cut down on. The first thing that goes once an owner decides to sell out is the player development.
Absolutely. Scouting and all.
They all got old or traded. They had nothing really to replace them.
Yeah. Well, speaking of no player development, Mert, that we weren't even going to do this week. It's so painful.
Oh, no. Must we?
Well, we got to at least try to make heads or tails out of it. Your New York Mets, it was a disaster. This was an unwatchable series with Atlanta.
I cannot remember a worse series in recent history.
In every respect. And it comes off two really good wins off Alan Blumkin's Pittsburgh Pirates.
Alan Blumkin.
Yeah, and they actually hit, scored some runs.
I don't know what happened.
The Pirates.
And
Pirates going into tonight have won 5 out of their last 22 games, which is a .235 winning percentage, and which is worthy of the 1962 Mets and a few other classically horrible teams.
Well, no, it's
absolutely
not. It's not worthy of the 1962 Mets.
No,
by any stretch, in any way, shape, or form. They're not playing that kind of ball, and they're not playing it for a long period of time, like 162 games, if I remember correctly. And it's ironic. What do I know? I picked the Pirates over the Cubs in the Western Division this year. I thought the Cubs were very good, but I thought the Pirates were about to really gel.
They went from 28 and 19 to 33 and 36, and most of their games, since Talion pitched the one-hitter against the Mets last week, they've lost every single game, and most of them they haven't even been competitive.
So what do? Do they count it? Count a one-hitter if it's against the Mets? Does that go in the official Score.
Well, look, I mean,
I don't know how that works anymore.
he got clobbered by the Cubs last night, and I was switching to that during the commercials of the basketball game until it got 6-1. Now I just put the basketball game in and bother switching back.
Yeah.
They're playing very, very badly right now. As are the Phillies, but the Mets burned up a lot of money over the weekend. Anybody who thought that they were going to lose 3 home games to the Braves, who were 20-46 coming in,
Yep.
That's really unfathomable.
No, impossible. Can't happen. I can't believe that happened.
Especially again coming off that 2-game stretch where they looked like they were getting it together. Okay, let's talk about what the possibilities of adding to the club. Should they deal a pitcher? Should they deal Wheeler, who's coming back? Should they fire the manager?
The first thing about Wheeler is, let's see him. Nobody's going to trade for the guy until they see him.
Right.
And, who knows when he's going to actually be here to pitch in a major league game. He's got I guess is he rehabbing in the minors? I don't even know what he's up to at the moment.
I don't know if he's been pitching or just. They're talking about the All-Star game, and then they said it might be a week or two after the All-Star game.
All right, but so it's a possibility. If at best would be at the trading deadline. I mean, you can't. Nothing. Nobody's going to take the guy before that because you don't even know if he's healthy or not. So I don't even think he's in the picture right now. The only thing they're definitely doing is they're getting Darno back. I think tomorrow. I think he's coming off the DL. So at least he's a halfway decent hitter. I mean, the 2 catchers they have now neither one of them can hit at all.
Right.
No. So,
it's a pity because Rivera really has a good arm and he's quick.
I think they're going to send Plawecki down.
Right.
And
which
keep Rivera.
Is good because some guys can't be backups. Some guys just Wilmer Flores seems to be one of those. He was well under 200 when Wright went out, and he's up to 241. He's been playing good ball. Some guys just have to play every day to keep going.
Yes, no doubt.
So Pirates.
Now there's a rumor that Conforto might be sent out for some seasoning.
I heard that. Well,
news today about that. Yeah,
I wouldn't be against that, but what they're going to bring up? Brandon Nimmo? I mean, this guy's never been in a major league game ever. He's never been up before. I don't know what the other possibilities would be, but he's probably the only guy. And he's another left-handed hitter that, he's never been here. Nobody knows what he can do. How much
it might do Conforto. It might do Conforto good to get maybe a week or two down there, get a stroke back and relax a little or whatever it's taken. And then there's a possibility that they may get that third baseman who's a Cuban friend, a Cuban compadre of Jonas. That would be. What would you think of that? Both you guys.
I don't think they're going to do it. The guy's 32. What kind of contract are they going to offer him? What kind of contract is he going to accept? The guy's another guy that. He might have been great in Cuba. What's he going to do in the major leagues?
Well, the Red Sox just had a Cuban that they gave a 7-year, $72 million to contracted 2 years ago, and they put him on today. They put him on irrevocable waivers.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
This guy Castillo, whatever.
It's a lot of money to eat.
Yeah, a lot of money.
So you never know. Yeah.
You put that with the Sandoval contract, that's $160 million down the toilet.
Yeah, the Mets will never do that.
No.
Never. They got a better chance of trading for one of those guys you were talking about before. You know,
Valencia with the A's, maybe.
Yeah, him or Lou Croy, one of those guys.
Oh, I'd like to get Lou Croy as a catcher. That would be nice. That really would be, because he's good defensively and he's got a little bit of a stick, and aside his play, and that I can't pronounce his name, Darno is brittle. He gets hurt a lot. So it's and it seems just when he gets into a groove that he gets hurt, and that's not good.
And he hurts them. He hurts them with his arm. He can't throw to second base. I mean, seriously. I mean, the Met pitchers have a problem holding runners on, for one thing, and I guess because of that, Darno has no chance of throwing anybody out, just ever. I mean, of course, it's not one of his strengths to begin with. So, they got problems, Ralph.
But look to be a very deep position has really turned to crap. And even with him coming back, there's the uncertainty of when is he going to get hurt again. So, it does not look good. How about the Yankees? Maybe we could talk about them a little bit.
Oh,
maybe Alan can chip in.
They won 3 out of 4, but it was up in Minnesota where they do well, and the Twins are not exactly a powerhouse. But the thing is with them is that they've got to get good outings for their starting pitchers, and they did not get one yesterday from Evaldi. So the pitching is inconsistent, and they've got a lot of old guys who are brittle, and I can't see them being much more than a 500 team.
Well,
Sabathia is back, and he looks
very good. Yeah, he has been. But Evaldi, when you thought Evaldi was morphing into one step higher, maybe.
Yeah,
he fell back.
Yeah, they said the paper today that Severino started a game yesterday down in Scranton, and he pitched fairly well, but they didn't like the pitch counts, and he had long pitch counts, and they said he's not ready to come back yet. But and then a few of them. I want to get rid of Brian McCann, but he's untradeable. He's got
and Beltran has been the only consistent hitter lately. He's been very good. I think Ellsbury's been picking it up a little bit. Gardner's been okay.
Well.
Who's that?
Gregorius, the shortstop. He's a 283.
Oh yeah. But Teixeira's. They said Teixeira's coming back by the end of the week.
Yeah, and
he's shown nothing all year.
He'll last another 2 weeks before he gets hurt again.
I think he's finished. Seems to be.
That makes them pretty much in the same position.
And they've got 3 teams ahead of them. They have the Orioles, Red Sox, and Blue Jays ahead of them. So that's a pretty tough order where you've got 3 teams in front of you that are generally better.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think
that was a gloomy report on both teams, ladies and gentlemen.
Personally, I think the National
does bring to mind. You mentioned Beltran, and I heard or read something about the possibility of the Mets and the Yankees maybe doing a deal for Beltran. I don't remember exactly where I heard it, if it was a rumor or just some guy's idea.
Somebody's idea.
Yeah, the Yankees and Mets don't make trades. Granderson wants the Mets as a free agent.
Right.
Yeah,
that's true.
They don't make trades, and personally, I think that the three division races in the National League are over already with Washington, the Cubs, and the Giants.
You may be right.
Yeah.
I think
that, so it's all about the wild card. And
very early.
Again, you got to give Selig a lot of credit on that one. I've said that countless times now. All the things he messed up, all the looking, non-looking, turn the other eye or whatever it is about the PEDs, all that stuff. And plus the All-Star game meaning something, that's a bunch of crap, and that was just for ratings. But putting in the playoffs, if you're going to have 30 teams, you got to keep the interest. And putting in the wild cards.
Last week, Mike Francesa had an interview on WFAN here with Bob Remfred, the commissioner. And you or I or Marty or anybody else could have written out Manfred's responses.
Yeah.
And Francesa's questions were not all puffballs, but what really incensed me was he defended this whole nonsense of the All-Star game determining who gets the World Series advantage, and in every other sport it's best record. And
right.
the one that really bothered me, although I have no brief for the Texas Rangers, in 2011, they won their division, and the Cardinals got the home game, even though they were the wild card, because the National League had won the All-Star game. I think, if they're going to keep this garbage, I think that the home game advantage should be to a division winner and not a wild card ever.
Well, I'll tell you what, I got off to a bad start in my head with the wild card when the Giants played the Miami Marlins way back when. I think it was the first year of the wild card, and it was like a 2-game series or 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3,
and the Marlins come up and beat the Giants yet again. The Giants, this is before they won the last,
The Marlins won with the Cubs. They beat the Cubs on, and they won the World Series over the Yankees. That was 2003.
Right.
Well,
I heard a bell. I hope that's Mr. Liebman.
That's right. I was stuck. There was a long delay for the bus. I had to wait about 45 or 50 minutes for the bus, and that threw me off.
Well, you know what Mel Brooks said, never.
So I have to be rescheduled?
No,
what's the story?
We're doing just fine. We're on the air. We're waiting for you. Never run for the bus. There'll always be another one. That's Mel Brooks.
I didn't run for the bus. There was no bus. I just waited for it.
All right.
What I could have done maybe was to arrange my day differently, that I used the bus earlier in the day perhaps, but I didn't anticipate that just today to be such a delay.
Well, you came in just at the right time. We're going to talk a little trivia. You're the maven. You know Alan Blumkin, Ron Liebman. You guys have been friends a long time.
I don't know the other guy you mentioned, somebody named Rose?
Yeah, Marty Rose. He's not just another guy. He's my second grade companion. We went to and we're all Newtown graduates except for Alan Blumkin. Marty Rose is a Newtown graduate. I'm a Newtown graduate in the general course of study after being a super senior.
Yeah.
So I can't take too much. But when you went to Newtown a few years before us, Mr. Liebman, you were a math genius. You were a whiz, weren't you? Don't be modest. And where did that
in math and history, I was very good. I had about the 20th highest average out of a 900 who graduated.
Wow.
Because I fell down in a few subjects. I had to take mechanical drawing in shop, and I fell down a little in science, but I was about 20th out of 900. That's pretty good.
Did Mr. Kozakwenski teach you in mechanical drawing?
Who?
Mr. Kozakwenski?
What's his name?
Kozakwenski.
Doesn't sound familiar. There was a Pearson I know, and I don't recall a Kozakwenski.
He gave me a 19 which was a lower grade than Hazel gave me in Spanish. She gave me a 20.
Spanish I was good also through high school. Not so good in college where there was reading comprehension mixed in, but through high school I was very good in Spanish.
They had nothing about bus schedules, though?
No, I worked for the Transit Authority for 25 years, and one year they
I can make Mert laugh anytime I want.
They actually published subway schedules. I brought one of them up to my office. I said, this is the biggest piece of fiction ever written. I
was only in Newtown High School 3 years because I was in junior high for a special progress class. So I took 3 years worth in 2. So I didn't get to Newtown till the 10th grade.
Yeah, so
I was in Newtown for 7 years, so that makes up for it. We average out to the regular amount.
We were in for 3 years.
You're going to give us trivia. I know the one question I want you to ask, Mr. Trivia
yes.
expert Ron Liebman, is the one you asked me that I didn't even bother to think about until now. I didn't want to. What's your question about the Dodgers and the Mets? It's a great.
The question I asked was, there were 9 players who played both for the Brooklyn Dodgers and for the New York Mets. One or more games with each team. Right, that was the question that I asked.
Now, of course, Roger Craig would be one. Don Zimmer would be another one. There's some obvious.
Charlie Neal.
Maybe I should start to write these down so I'll see which ones you get. You got Craig, you got Zimmer, right? Craig is still alive, in fact.
We got Charlie Neal. That's Mert's pick.
Duke Snyder.
Charlie Neal is correct. He's dead, right?
Right. Yes, he is.
Duke Snyder played with the Mets.
There's no segue there, but
did you say Duke Snyder?
I did. Is that right?
Right. Snyder is right.
Absolutely correct on that one.
Snyder were actually teammates on the Mets for about a month and a half before Hodges went to manage Washington.
You gave away one of the answers. He hadn't said Hodges.
Right. Hodges is another one. Absolutely.
LeBine.
That's
and of
5.
course, Hodges was traded for Dennehy, if I'm not.
LeBine.
One's for Pearsall and one's for Dennehy.
Yeah, LeBine pitched a little bit.
LeBine is an answer, yes.
And is Joe Myron Ginsburg?
No, not Ginsburg. No, Ginsburg played for the Mets, but not the Dodgers.
Okay, he didn't play for Detroit. Okay, all right.
Joe Pignatano?
Pignatano was right also. So we're up to 7 already.
We said Zimmer already, right?
I think I heard Mr. Blumkin say Bob Aspromonte.
Yeah, he wanted bat for the Dodgers. He was the last active player to play for the Dodgers in Brooklyn.
Bob Aspromonte is correct. So let's see how many you got. It's 2, 4, 6, 8. The one you didn't get is usually the one people have the most trouble with.
Okay, let's go back in my memory.
Because he didn't play for the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Did we mention
you mentioned Zimmer. Because this other guy didn't play for the Brooklyn Dodgers in their last year, and he didn't play for the New York Mets in their first year. So people don't think about him. They think about him more with other teams, in fact, than with the Dodgers and the Mets.
God. I'm going to kick myself enough.
Yeah, me too. That should be one I'm betting it's a catcher. They went through a lot of catchers.
Well, should I answer you or not? If it's a catcher.
Well, let's give it another 5 seconds. Just,
Rube Walker?
No.
No?
No? Okay.
Rube Walker never played for the Mets.
No, he was a coach for the Mets. But not,
yes, he was a coach. Just because Pignatano played and coached for the Mets, but Walker was only a coach.
Okay.
Did Ed Boucher start out with?
Ed Boucher came up with the Phillies and went to the Cubs.
Okay.
No, not Boucher.
No. It wasn't.
Okay.
Wasn't Marvelous Marv either.
No, he came up with the Yankees. Actually, he was a pretty good prospect out of from Denver.
Oh, yeah. Well, in that thin air, he was a superstar in Denver in AAA for 2 years.
Ed Boucher is best known today for a morals charge.
Yeah, and also because he was supposed to be on the 145 card in the 58 top set, and because of the morals problem, they pulled the card.
I heard about that. Originally, people thought it was Campanella who was pulled, but it was Boucher who was pulled.
Boucher, yeah. One of the myriad of cards.
Al, you must have a card collection, don't you?
Me?
Well, not anymore.
I had to sell some of the stuff off to pay for my expenses. Since my physical problems started.
Yeah, I still have a lofty collection.
I have reprints from all the early sets. I have reprinted sets, which are a lot cheaper.
A lot cheaper.
Well, I don't think they did. They had reprints. I think the last reprints were 54, though, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly. But they put out a Dodgers set from 52 to 56, and they created a number of cards that were not in some of the top sets.
They
created
a Clemente card with the Dodgers that was a
they
card.
Clemente and the Montreal Royals in the 54, and in 52 they put out facsimile Furillo and Newcomb cards.
Right.
Marty, you want to talk about your cards or probably not, huh?
My cards.
What about? Wait, you only gave 8 of the 9 answers. You want the 9th one, or you give up?
I had shoe boxes of them. My mother threw them away when I was in the service. Came back.
Well, my mother threw away. She told me I could only keep 200 cards when I was a kid, but in the 1980s I rebuilt my collection. The 1980s and the 1990s. Lately I haven't collected too much, but I'm going to go back to collecting.
Yeah, it's basically my story was when the new ones came out, I had to get rid of the old ones.
I like the old ones better. I feel more nostalgia and everything about the 50s and 60s than the later ones.
Like other kids, I spent tons of dimes looking for 1954 and 55 Topps mantles, which never existed.
That's like when I was a kid. I was looking for the 57 Musial, but there was no 57 Musial.
Musial was not a Topps card until the All-Star in 58. I know
that, but I didn't know it when I was a kid.
Yeah, I know.
The 58 set
I
was my favorite all-time set.
The history of the sets.
Musial for many years was not even priced that high compared to other superstars.
No.
It was easy for me to get 58 to 63 on Musial.
Yeah.
Do any of you have the books that Topps
I have
put together?
And the Topps put out books on the 50s and the 60s only, and in the 50s book they include the Bowman cards. So those books are great. And they
put out a big book of the 50s, 60s, 70s, which they made available to Sabre members.
During the Topps,
they put out a big book of all the cards they ever did.
Yeah, during the cards, Bowman Wars, there were a lot of players who were Bowman exclusives or Topps exclusives. And the only 2 players who were in all the sets from 51 on both Bowman and Topps were Yogi Berra and Phil Rizzuto. The only one that Gil Hodges missed was the 53 Topps. And when they issued the reprinted set, they put out a number of cards that weren't issued in that set originally, and Hodges was on one of those.
Well, Hodges was not included in the 48 Bowman either. He started with 49 Bowman.
51 to 55. And that includes the 51 Redbacks and Bluebacks. The Topps
I really didn't do a great deal I collected Hodges, but I really didn't do a great deal of collecting before the 56 set.
Yeah.
Although the 55 Bowman I liked with the umpires.
Yeah. The TV set that I always preferred the Bowmans because the Bowmans had more of the stars of that period. And a couple of those Topps early sets had a lot of bonus babies and guys that they even carried guys that never played in the major leagues.
Some of the Topps sets had missing numbers.
We have to come to an end on this trivia question. Ron?
Who's the 9th guy?
We're stumped.
You want me to tell you the 9th one?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Chico Fernandez.
Oh, I was thinking about him, but
yes,
he played for the
Mets, for the Dodgers in '56, and the Mets in '63.
No, he played for the Dodgers in '50s. Came up with them.
Wow.
Right, and then he went to. He was better known with the Phillies and Tigers.
I remember him with the Mets in '63, and that was.
Yeah.
I was more disappointed in the Mets in '63 than I was in '62. They made a stupid trade in the off season. They traded Bob Miller, who went on to have a terrific career, righty Bob Miller, for Tim Harkness and Larry Burritt.
All right, yeah. And in '63 was the year that they widened the strike zone, and that Met team in '63 was shut out 30 times.
Well, I didn't think that Stengel and Weiss were at the top of their game anymore in the way they were running the team. They both seemed to be washed up. The Mets should not have lost that many games. A lot of games, but not that many.
The other giant.
Weiss doesn't get very much credit, but he kind of helped build the '69 team. He laid a foundation both in the front office. One of the guys he got was Whitey Herzog. He did.
Speaking of trivia, there are only two players who ever played for the New York Giants and the New York Mets. One, of course, is Willie Mays.
Whoa!
I assume you know that I know the other one. I've even asked
you. Don't give the answer. Give we amateurs a chance.
He was an infielder.
This guy was not a star.
He was an infielder, and he's
that.
still alive.
Yeah. I told him, this guy was at one of our Sabre conventions, and I told him that he was the only one besides Willie Mays, and he said he didn't know that, and he thanked me.
Well, the funny thing is he played so lousy for the Mets that they sent him to another team where he sat on the bench for a team that won the World Championship. He hardly played at all, but he managed to get a World Series ring because he failed with the Mets. This guy.
Okay, now wait a second. Wait.
It looked like he'd be the only one in this group because Willie Mays didn't come until '72. This guy was there in the '60s.
No, but they were more attuned to bringing back a lot of the old Dodgers than they were any of the old Giants.
Yes, they were. As a matter of fact, they offered a contract to Antonelli, I remember. Also, Billy Lowe's, and Billy Lowe's decided.
Those two retired rather than go to the Mets, right?
No, Billy Lowe's was not exactly the paragon of sanity.
Lowe's was a character.
Billy Lowe's had some good years with the Dodgers and some good years with the Orioles later on.
I'll tell you a little trivia about him.
Okay.
He was present at 4 home run games. He was with the Dodgers when Hodges hit the 4 home runs in 1950. He was with the Dodgers when Adcock hit 4 against them. In 1954, he was with the Orioles when Rocky Colaville hit the 4 against them in 1959.
You mean 59?
And he was with
59
the
with
Giants when Willie Mays hit the 4 home runs in 1961 against I think it was the Braves.
Wow.
He was present.
He's also known that he said he doesn't want to win 20 games, that if he does, they'll expect him to win every year, the 20 games. He never won more than 14.
No, he also picked the Yankees when Dodgers were playing them in the World Series. And when they called him out on it, he said, I was misquoted, I said 7, not 6.
Yeah, the Yankees won it that year, but in 55, I think in 55 he said he thought the Yankees would win also, and the Dodgers won in 55. Yeah. Then after 55, he had a sore arm, and after one game in 56, he was traded.
Yeah. But in those days, a lot of these guys.
The only guy I could think of is Joey Amalfitano, and I don't think Amalfitano ever played for the Mets.
No.
He never did.
Okay. I'll give it to you because it's outside of Ron. It's almost impossible. It's Eddie Brissou.
Eddie Brissou, yes.
Yeah, I've used that question.
Yes.
And he was
with the Red Sox later on. He was pretty good with the Red Sox. Went on to Japan.
But he was lucky. When the Mets released him, he went to the Cardinals, and he hardly played at all. And they won the World Championship in '67. So he got a ring. Then he retired.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't. I think he went to Japan
in 1998 I told him that, and he was very surprised. He didn't know it.
You didn't realize it.
No.
He was the only one.
The only one
outside
Willie Mays, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised because I figured he would have been at card shows and at conventions, and somebody would have told him before you.
Yes. But
do you know the 4 players who played for both New York teams, the Mets and the Yankees, and also both Chicago teams?
Jay Johnstone is one.
No.
Okay. Mets and the Yankees.
Johnstone's not an answer. Didn't play for the White Sox. What?
Dick Tidrow?
Tidrow's one
Kingman?
of them. Yes. What?
Kingman? Dave
No.
Kingman? No.
How many?
No, he didn't.
How many are there?
4. And 2 of them had a situation where for one of the teams they played either only 1 game or 2, but it was enough to qualify.
Oh, God, that's very difficult then.
There's 2 pitches.
No.
No, there's 2 pitches in the group, and 2 non-pitches.
Okay.
Robin Ventura.
Charlie Smith.
Charlie Smith, yes.
Was he one?
Charlie Smith is one, right? And Dick Tidrow is another.
Wow.
Nice.
And who?
There's 2 more. One a pitcher and one a player. The pitch is
Who did
very,
you say
very
was
hard.
the other besides Charlie Smith?
Dick Tidrow.
Tidrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Dick Tidrow. There's also another pitcher who's very, very hard on this one. He played only 1 game for the Yankees. He's active, though. But he played only 1 game for the Yankees. And there's also an infielder who, for one of the teams, played only 2 games. Played only 2 games for the Cubs. An infielder, so he's tough also. But if you play 1 or more games, you qualify.
I know that, yeah, but that makes it extremely tough.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Well, we're supposed to be
you give us that one.
All right, you want me to tell you the other 2?
Please.
Okay. One of them is Lance Johnson. Charlie Smith, by the way, had played only 2 games for the Cubs, but Lance Johnson
on the Yankees at all.
He did play for them for a little while around the year 2000.
Yeah.
And also Dave Ardsma, who's first in the alphabet. He pitched 1 game for the Yankees, but he played for the other 3 teams.
The thing I remember
wouldn't have
about
gotten him in 1,000 years.
He replaced Henry Aaron as the number 1 alphabetically.
All right, just like another pitcher named Zeich, he plays Zwilling as the last guy in the list.
CH played this year or last year. But
ZYCH played last year and a little bit this year also.
You know, the best thing this is doing is keeping our minds off the Mets, huh, Marty?
Now, one of the things that Ronald got a big kick out of, I think he might remember this. I did this partially in New York. I did a whole presentation on this in the Philadelphia Regional on Dick Littlefield, who was a pitcher in the
Yes, I remember that.
Who was traded 10 times. There were 3 times. In fact, he was supposed to be traded for Jackie Robinson.
Right, I was going to say.
Robinson retired, then so the Giants sent him to the Cubs. And he was retired twice. He was traded twice within 2 months of each other, and he was traded for some very famous combinations. Like he was involved with a trade with Vic Wirtz and Don Little, who was the pitcher on the Giants who threw the ball at Wirtz at 10 miles and Willie Mays caught.
He got his man,
and this is before Interleague and when there were only 16 teams.
Do you know what he said? You know what he was reputed to have said to DeRocher?
Yeah,
I got my man.
Oh yeah, Little, yeah.
Right.
He got his man who hit the ball almost 500 feet, but it was caught at the fence.
Yeah,
what you used to do, Al?
The Indians win that game.
I think Vic Wirtz suffered from polio.
Yeah, he missed a good portion of 55. And one of the records he
It was non-paralytic polio, though.
Yeah. One of the records that he has, I think, Ron can correct me if I'm wrong, in 1960 with the Red Sox, he drove in 103 runs and scored 45, which I think is the least amount of runs scored by anybody who ever drove in 100 runs or more.
I gave that as a trivia question, and Tom Zacco, instead of answering it, he gave a clue, Jonas Salk. With the polio. So somebody got it with that.
That's a great clue.
Zacco sometimes does that. He gives sort of a clue, an offbeat clue of my questions, which I don't mind because it's all for fun anyway.
I know. I tell Doc that he hasn't lost it. He thinks he's lost it, and I tell him, you haven't lost it. I talk to him.
He seems to be a little better than he was a couple years ago, maybe because he replaced Jim Haller as the head of the other trivia page.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he seems sharper than he was a couple of years ago.
Give me your best question for us, so we because time is on our side.
Okay, I have one that'll drive that's driven everybody I know crazy. There were only two players who were in the major leagues at that time who missed time to both World War II and Korea. One, of course, was Ted Williams.
Right.
Who was the other one?
Jerry Coleman.
The other one had the same last name as some famous politicians.
Jerry Coleman was not in the major leagues when he was in World War II.
The other one I'm saying had the same name as some famous politicians. You want me to say it?
I had David Nemec.
Same name as who? Give me
the second one I'm saying, his last name, I was given as a clue to Ralph. He had the same last name as some famous politicians. And also, he was a manager of a few teams.
Okay.
Yeah, son that
He had a long career, though, in the majors. He started, I think, in 1939, and he finished in 1957. Long career.
Yeah, he had a son that played in the majors for a long period.
Right.
Was it Hal Lanier's father? Max Lanier?
No.
Okay.
No, think of the 1948 World Series with a lot of fathers and sons.
He was on the Indians at that point.
Was it Bell?
No.
Thinking father.
Yeah, good throwing arm. Wasn't much of
Boone? Ray Boone?
No. It was...
no, Boone was on the Indians, but Boone is not the answer.
Bob Kennedy.
Okay.
Bob Kennedy.
He was an outfielder who was a halfway decent hitter, but no great shakes, but he had a tremendous throwing arm. That's why
1948
Alameda, California at one time in his life. I don't know how I know that, but I
found that out, and I threw it at David Nemec, who was the father of all of us trivia players, because he was the first one to make it fashionable. And I threw that one at him, and I had him coming and going on that one for a couple of days.
The 1948 Indians
wrote a great trivia book on the Yankees.
Nemec wrote a lot of great books.
Yeah.
Maybe 20, 30 of them. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
he wrote two in the 70s. But I wound up finding in the paperbacks. I wound up finding in a used bookstore. I bought them, I think, for 39 cents a piece. When he came to the first time I met him, he came to when we had the Sabre convention here in 1991. That's when I first met him. We've been pretty good friends since.
Nice.
Oh,
okay,
yes, I remember
you got a question for us? You got a trivia question for us?
Well, the question, there's one question I've asked about the Mets, which nobody has ever gotten.
Okay.
One question I've asked about the Mets, which nobody has ever gotten. It's a one-part question. The first player who ever played for the Mets who got 4 extra base hits in the same game. He was not a superstar. He was not a. I asked all the Met experts I could, and none of them got it. Because I used to keep lists of guys with 4 extra base hits in a game. I haven't necessarily kept up with the list in the last few years, but I used to keep it. Cool. He played in the World Series. Christopher is the man. He had an unusual situation. He played in the World Series. He was a pinch runner twice. And he was hit by a pitch once as a pinch hitter, and he scored 2 runs without an at-bat.
Burgess. That was his job with the 1960 Pirates, was to run for Smokey Burgess.
That was the one time, though, in the 7th game when he didn't actually score.
Yeah.
But he got Burgess out of the game, and Hal Smith came in, and you know the rest.
Right, and
Smith hit that home run. And he wasn't the only Hal Smith that was catching in the major leagues. was the only Hal Smith that was catching in the National League at the time.
There was a Howard Ray Smith with the Cardinals, and there was Hal Wayne Smith. Hal Wayne Smith is in his late 80s. He appeared a couple of years ago at the Sabre convention. He almost looked half dead, but his mind was sharp. His mind was sharp. He was talking about the things.
When the Pirates had a 1960 reunion at PNC last year, I was able to watch that on YouTube, and he was there. I mean,
Hal Smith came because they had Houston Colt 45s, and Hal Smith went from Pittsburgh to the Houston Colt 45s, so he was there.
Right.
Oh, speaking of that, who was the only player that was involved in the first two expansion drafts?
That I don't think I know. I think I've seen the question, but I don't know it off the top of my head. Who was it? Oh, it's Bobby Shantz.
Lee Walls?
Bobby Shantz is correct, yeah.
Lee Walls?
Yeah, Southern Academy. Bobby Shantz, right.
He never played again in Washington. He was traded to the Pirates, and then he went to Houston when the National League expanded.
He pitched their first game, surprisingly, a complete game victory, when he supposedly wasn't a starter anymore.
And Bobby Shantz threw to his brother on the Yankees, Wilvers.
Yeah, he was there with the Kansas City A's also. In fact, the two of them were on a Bowman card.
Oh, really?
In one of his first major league games, he pitched 9 innings in relief. So I've used that over the years as a question.
No-hit ball.
No-hit ball, right, in relief. And then he gave up a couple of hits, but he won the game.
Very interesting.
He was with the Philadelphia Athletics then.
Yeah,
and on the
years.
He also hung around for a long time. He was a part of the trade where the Cardinals got Lou Brock. And when I interviewed Dick Groat in 1985, I asked him about the Brock trade because Groat was with the Cardinals then. And Brock told Groat and some of the other players that he was so screwed up because of the Cubs College of Coaches that he didn't know which way was up, and he was thrilled to get out of there. That's a good trivia question, is to name the College of Coaches that the Cubs had in the early 60s.
A common question is, not New York directly, but the Kansas City Athletics in 1955 had two pairs of brothers who played on the team.
Oh, wow.
So we'll see if you can come up with that.
So you got to say Shantz was one of them.
Right.
Right. Okay.
And the other one is a little tougher to figure. The other one included one guy in his last year and one guy in his first year.
Huh. Wow. Did Finnegan have a brother?
No, it's not. It's not Finnegan.
A name I remember.
Okay, I'll give you a clue. It's somebody who later played for the Yankees, like Bobby Shantz did.
Was it?
That may give it
Boyer? It wasn't.
Boyer, yeah.
Was it?
It was Cloyd Boyer was the pitcher, and Cleet Boyer was the bonus baby who played third base, and he hardly played at all. He sat on the bench. He was a pinch runner mostly, and he played an inning in the field here or there. So they had the two pairs of brothers on the 55 team.
All right. Speaking of the 55 A's, they had 3 pitchers in their last season. They all were former 20-game winners.
Oh, and did one of them play for the Yankees a little bit?
One of them was Eddie Lopez.
3 pitchers, 2 of them played for the Yankees, and one.
No, I'm not thinking of Lopez. I wasn't thinking of Lopez. I was thinking of.
Lopez was released at all times. Then he
also played with Detroit.
No, the pitcher and one of them pitched almost exclusively with the Yankees. And the other one was a Yankee pickup in the 50s who had won his 20 games in the National League. And the other one was another Yankee pickup who had one spectacular season and then was really not much after that.
Johnny Sain.
Johnny Sain was one of them.
Okay.
But you don't count Lopez.
No, Lopez did not. Lopez finished with Baltimore.
I thought Lopez was briefly with Kansas City in 55. I may be wrong.
Yeah. Well, the other two were Vic.
The Yankees released him all-timers day.
Vic Raschi and Ewell Blackwell. And Vic, here's another one you could throw a couple of people. Vic Raschi gave up the first home run to Henry Aaron. Who was the other?
Yeah, you mentioned that on my page.
The other he gave up first home run to another Hall of Famer.
I also mentioned that he gave up Aaron's last homer.
Yeah, Warren Spahn gave up the first home run to Willie Mays. First of Sandy Koufax's 2 home runs.
Oh, really?
And Raschi gave up the first home run to Henry Aaron and the first of Whitey Ford's 3 home runs when Raschi was pitching for the A's in 1955.
Well, I think you mentioned once in the trivia page that he gave up the first home run to Ford, which offhand I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay. As everybody knows, White Wilhelm hit a home run in his first major league game. Never hit one for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
It was in 1952. Who did he hit the home run off?
Hoover. Joe Hoover.
Really? I never heard of Joe.
Yes, a very obscure pitcher who pitched in maybe 2 major league games.
The Boston Braves.
Joe Hoover.
You guys both knew that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, because I looked it up once.
Then let me go. I'm giving you one of those salutes. Is that I'm giving you. You guys are great. I don't even know what the hell it is. It's like.
Well, where's this other guy, Marty Rose, who's supposed to be in the studio? I'm not hearing his voice.
Marty Rose.
Marty Rose, and I'm
Marty
not talking because I have no answers. I don't know. I can't.
You have the
I know the
answer,
names.
Marty.
I have no answers to any of this stuff. Way beyond.
But you're not thinking about. But you're still not thinking about the Mets. So this thing is working. It's working good,
Yeah.
Marty.
No, I'm thinking about the Mets. My daughter gave me a DVD for Father's Day, which had the 69 and 86 World Series highlights on them. And
nice.
By the way, Vin Scully did the 86 World Series highlights.
Now, I was
very
at
nice.
those games. I was at Game 1 and Game 7. But
I had 1969.
From work.
Here's one for you, Alan. In 1969, who pinch ran for J.C. Martin and scored the winning run in one of the ball games?
Gaspar.
That was
Right, Gaspar. Future guest.
And you know that Frank Robinson said, "Run who?" when he heard the pinch hitter. It was Rod Gaspar, but he said, "Run who?"
No, he said, "Who in the hell is Ron Gaspar?" I remember him.
Yeah. You know what happened? The next spring, Gaspar came and he didn't hustle, so Hodges sent him to the minors, and he played only a few major league games after 1969. Some with the Mets and some with San Diego.
San Diego after that, if I'm not mistaken.
The reason I brought that up is because he canceled on Ralph last week. He was supposed to be on.
Well, we had a misconnect. He didn't cancel. We had a misconnection.
I think Al would probably know. Who played with the Mets in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s besides Tom Seaver.
Running like hell. And I said, Ron, there'll always be another bus.
Mike Ferguson, that's a throwaway.
Right, I figured you would know that,
Yeah.
Because that's been asked a lot.
Some questions, like anything that's, at our level, that I call 101s, like anything that surrounds something like the Bobby Thompson home run, or anything like that. Who was on base? Who was on deck? Who, any of that stuff. That
of course, Willie was on deck, and Whitey Lockman will be off and running if there's something hit.
He was on deck when Mazeroski hit the home run in 1960, and Harvey Haddix was the winning pitcher, and Larry Jansen was the winning pitcher for the Giants in the Thompson game because he pitched the 9th inning.
And who came in for Tony Kubek when he was hitting the throw?
No, DeMaestri. Who else?
Then DeMaestri was pinch hit for in the 9th inning by Dale Long. And then in the bottom of the 9th, Boyer moved from third to short, and McDougal took over at third base, his last major league game.
McDougal scored the last run that the Yankees got in that World Series. That was the last run he ever scored because he retired after that season because they were going to put him up in the expansion draft. And
generally speaking, DeMaestri would have been in there for Kubek.
He's still alive.
Who would have moved to left for Berra had Stengel not been half asleep on the bench.
But DeMaestri is still alive.
Stengel made another stupid move in the 9th inning. Dale Long got a single. and he left Dale Long at first base. Long barely got to third base when the next man up singled, and then, only then, did he put in McDougal to run for Dale Long. Long was almost thrown out going from first
to third. Put him in, you might as well put him in right away.
But Stengel was not sharp then. He was already losing his sharpness.
Well, I spoke to Johnny Blanchard at a card show in 1987, and Blanchard told me that when they brought Coates in, and they knew Hal Smith from the American League because that's where he'd played the 5 previous seasons, and he's a dead fastball hitter. Blanchard said he shook off every sign that he put down for a breaking pitch. Blanchard went at the man and says, "Throw the fastball, you SOB." He threw the fastball, and Smith deposited it over the left field wall for 3 runs. And they all hated Coates. And supposedly Coates went up to Terry after that game and said, "Thanks for getting me off the hook."
Oh, wow.
It's funny. Hal Smith looked like he had the game-winning home run, and the stuff that went on in the 9th inning, including the Nelson Mantle play. Hal Smith is hardly even remembered today by most people, except for trivia experts. But he could have been the hero of 1960 if the game hadn't been tied up.
Well, I asked Dick Roth when I interviewed him in 1985 what he thought would have happened if Stewart had been playing first base instead of Nelson, who made a very nice play on that ball. He said he didn't want to contemplate what would have happened if Stewart was playing first base.
Back to Strangeglove.
Yeah, I was once in Forbes Field because I went to all the games there when I was going to school at Pitt, and they once gave him a standing ovation for picking up a hot dog wrapper.
Nelson did hit a 2-run homer in the first inning of that game.
Yeah.
Who was an original Dodger? He came up originally with the Dodgers.
Rocky Nelson won 2 triple crowns in the International League in 1955 with the Montreal Royals and 58 with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Okay.
In 1949, Nelson came up with the Dodgers, and he didn't play much because Gil Hodges was the first baseman, but Gil Hodges played every game that year, but twice in the late innings, Nelson was brought in by Shotton to pinch hit for Hodges.
Really? Wow.
That's right, as a platoon move. Nelson didn't get a hit either time.
Yeah.
So Hodges played 156 games and 154 complete games. Wow. You know, Machado of Baltimore, he was suspended. His consecutive game streak was 229. That was the longest in the majors. 229, far behind Ripken and Gehrig.
You guys know so much. I'm going to tell you this story before I close because I'm so impressed.
You're probably angry with me because I was a little late because I was stuck on the bus.
No, I'm not. I never get. You missed the bus. You ran for the bus. That's why I'm angry. There'll always be another bus.
Yeah, 3 of them will show up at once.
Okay, I got to tell you, you guys know it all as much as in Times Square when I was a kid. My grandfather took me over to an Indian chief who would sit in Times Square. I don't know if you remember that when we were kids, Mert.
I don't.
But there was an Indian chief. He went over to him, and my grandfather says, "Tell this boy what he had for breakfast. You'll impress him." And the Indian gentleman, the Native American, looks down and goes, "He had eggs." I go, whoa, I'm a little kid, right? I come back from the Air Force. Where do I go? I go right through the station again, and there that guy is, 25 years later. And
why did you leave New York, Ralph?
Well,
why did you move away?
Let me finish it because people wouldn't let me finish stories.
Oh.
Okay. That's why I left. That's not why I left. I'm going to finish the story. I go up to the guy. I go, how? He goes, scrambled.
Oh, God. That's funny.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
How did he know? I mean, so, Ron, I left New York because in 1965, and Mert will remember this well, when I had no chance in hell of matriculating to anything but a junior high school advanced course. So I would have been drafted when Vietnam was going on, and I enlisted in the Air Force in 1965 and was stationed out in California and stayed out in California when I got out of the Air Force.
Well, that's a good reason. In my case, I both failed the physical for the Army, and I was sole support of my mother. So they plain and out simply didn't want me.
I was drafted 3 times, and I wound up doing 6 years in the Army Reserve, from 1968 to 1964.
You're not in combat then.
Excuse me. And I want to tell you one thing. That, when you get somebody who's my age with trivia, we remember things that happened in 1956, for example, like it happened yesterday. You asked me what happened 2 years ago, I couldn't tell you the time of day.
Right.
Because my theory
is
remember, when you're young,
I think you associate that with a lot of it. We associate it with our youth, with
cards, because the cards are what got me interested, because my parents couldn't care less.
Right.
But basically, it's because when you're 12, 13, 14 years old, real life isn't interfering with it, so it sticks.
Well, I'll tell you what, the first baseball card I ever saw.
Like if you gave me a trivia test on things after 2000, I would flop because I just can't. I just don't retain that stuff anymore.
Right.
I'm better in the 50s also, but it was different. A team would have the same lineup for years. Exactly. Now it keeps changing all the time.
And I think one of the biggest reason for fantasy leagues is free agency.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the reason, and free agency and arbitration and other things. The game is not as much fun to me as it was in the 50s and 60s.
Well,
enough fun that I could follow it and I like it, but not as much as then.
No, because there were a few players you have to remember. I mean, look, the Dodgers in those days, the boys of summer were teammates. The 8 core of them were teammates for 8 years. I mean, you don't have that anymore.
Right.
I know.
Absolutely. Sure. Okay, guys.
In one of my quizzes, I'm going to say in one of my quiz questions, I asked the 6 Dodgers who scored 100 runs in the same season. So that wasn't so difficult to get because the Dodgers had the same lineup all those years. But Furillo didn't do it that year.
Hodges.
Furillo was not one of them.
Gilliam.
Furillo was not one of them. All right. Well, you got to go Reese and Gilliam.
He won the batting title, Furillo, but he didn't score 100 runs. Gilliam, right?
Hodges.
And Reese.
Yes.
Snyder.
Right.
Sandy Amorose, maybe?
No, Robinson.
Not Amorose.
Jackie Robinson.
All right. Well, how about Billy Cox, maybe?
No,
Cox didn't do it.
All right.
Robinson, Campanella, Reese, Hodges, Gilliam.
Campanella was not mentioned by Campanella did it. He was not mentioned by Ralph, right?
Yeah.
So you've mentioned all 6. The 2 regulars who didn't do it, Amorose was in the minors that year. The 2 regulars who didn't do it were Cox and Furillo. Furillo, his hand was stepped on 3 weeks from the end of the season.
Yeah, with the broken hand that DeRosa stepped on. Yeah.
Right, I remember that. Yeah.
No, they said in later years. They said in later years that Monty Irvin was the culprit, not DeRosa.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about Carl Furillo is that his numbers were just short of Hall of Fame. I have a very big interest in guys like him and players like Alvin Dark and Del Ennis and especially Minnie Minoso. These guys who were very, very good, but not Dominic DiMaggio is another one that are not quite Hall of Fame level.
Well,
Furillo was just short of 200 homers, just short of 2,000 hits, and 1 hit short of a 300 lifetime average.
Yeah, and as much as Ron is for Gil Hodges getting into the Hall of Fame, which is one of his big causes, my big cause from that era is Minnie Minoso. So.
Okay, you could also make a case for Veda Pinson as an outside shot.
Now, those guys got Pinson and some of those other guys were caught up when they widened the strike zone from 63 to 68, which I call dead ball era 2. And he was one of the ones that was most affected by that thing, and that of course.
Well, wasn't it in '68 when they raised the
every game was 1-2-1, And 69, they lowered the mound, and they expanded. They put 4 new teams in. And so the hitting started to perk back up. But Yastrzemski's 301 in the American League that year was almost equivalent to Bill Terry's 401 in 1930 in the National League, because the National League as a league hit over 300 that year.
Wow.
From 63 to 68 was the year that the strike zone and the mound were different.
That ball, too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my big bugaboos about baseball over the years is the expansion, bringing it up, bringing it down. The strike zone is just horrible. I mean, just the changes, the inconsistency between the different leagues. I could understand it. They used to have the inside chest protector, so you couldn't get you could get the low ball called with the inside chest protector and not the outside chest protector. I understand all of it, but it's bogus. I think the idea that, well, each umpire has his own strike zone, no, it should be the strike zone. But short of that, if each umpire is going to have their own strike zone, they should at least make it consistent for both teams all the way through. If a strike is a strike in the first inning, let it be a strike.
A number of years ago, a guy in New Jersey published a study that he did on one season. He had batting averages by umpire. They took whatever games this particular umpires worked behind home plate. And there was a disparity. And the umpire, when he put this out, the umpires union went ballistic.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because it showed basically showed the inconsistency of the strike zones. You know, if you had an umpire who was behind home plate in the games, he umpires the average is 240, and another one the average is 290. Obviously,
people put that out as betting information. If you want the over and under and this, that, and the other thing.
Exactly.
In the second game of the 1963 World Series, Alston started Padres rather than Drysdale for 2 reasons. Number one, it was Yankee Stadium as a left-hand, and number two, there was a National League umpire there. So he figured Padres was a better bet, and he would save Drysdale for L.A. when it was an American League umpire.
Right. So if you're even thinking along those terms, something's wrong. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and when they merged them, it took me a little while to get used to umpires I knew were American League doing National League games and vice versa.
Okay.
Well, that's because Bud Selig wanted sort of everything under his control. So he cut out the league presidents and he cut out the separate umpires. That was the work of Bud Selig.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but there are no league presidents anymore.
Yeah, but there's a book that came out last year called The Game by John Pessah, P-E-S-S-A-H, and it's a history of Selig's career as commissioner, and a lot of it is not very, very pretty.
Yeah.
And yet they're probably going to put him in unanimously in the Hall of Fame when he becomes eligible this year.
And keep Marvin Miller out, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's real smart.
Fort Fricker's in there who, a big thing as a commissioner saying it was a league matter while Walter O'Malley was telling him what to do all the time.
Right.
I always comment on my page that in 2006, they were supposed to put in all the Negro leaguers who belonged who weren't in there, and they were supposed to get in Buck O'Neill, who was still alive then at the age of 94. They picked 17 candidates, but no Buck.
No Buck.
They put 17 candidates, but no Buck.
They didn't put him in. And then they, posthumously, they gave him some sort of kiss-ass award, like to try to make up for it. That was horrible. And the man had such class. He didn't say anything. He just kept it all inside.
When Mike Francesa asked Manfred about Pete Rose last week, the standard response that came out of Manfred's mouth was, "We have no impact on what the Hall of Fame does," which, of course, everybody knows is nonsense. But personally, I think that Pete Rose is an idiot savant. He was a great baseball player, one of the best I ever saw. at what he did, but the rest of his life he's a total screw up.
Yeah, well.
Well, I would put him in. How about you, Al?
No.
I would put him in the Hall of Fame. You wouldn't?
No.
So we disagree on that.
There are certain things you get out of baseball.
That's a no. If you open it up to him, you have to open it up for Shoes Joe Jackson and Buck Weaver and Eddie Seacott from the Black Sox.
Well, the biggest argument that I think is bogus, it says that Pete Rose never bet against his own team as a manager. But you know what? If you bet and you specifically don't bet a game, that's telling the bookies that you're not as confident as you were when you did bet.
Bet on your team, you can bring in a pitcher who has a sore arm or send up a player.
Exactly, just to get that one inning, you need that thing.
In a career to get that specific game won.
Exactly. And it's just a no-no. If he'd bet as a player, it would have been less harmful to baseball, in my thinking, than as a manager.
He was criticized in one game as a manager. He let Franco pitch a third inning, and Franco had never pitched 3 innings in his life, so Franco pitched badly and blew the game in his third inning. John Franco.
Right. So that's a good example of board decisions based on the guy had money in the game.
So, Ralph, you would agree then with Alan, not with me. You would not put Rose in, right?
I would not put Rose in. Although at this point, I would put anybody that did steroids, any records, I would say you put them in. You just make note on the plaque that whatever the records were, they were playing against each other in a steroid era. And at this point, you just have to, because every era has their inequities. Guys that made it pre-Jackie weren't playing against blacks.
Well, you have a lot of guys that Frankie Frisch and Charlie Garinger put in when they were in the Old Timers Committee, who have as much business having a plaque on the wall as I do.
Lajoie's kid, not Lajoie. Who's the Big Poison and Little Poison?
Now, Paul Weiner is legitimate. Lloyd Weiner is not.
Yeah, Lloyd Weiner. There was some confusion. The guys that voted for him were confused about the Weiner brothers.
Yeah, and Rick Farrell, who was a mediocre catcher for years, is in, and his brother Wes, who was who was a very good pitcher and even a better hitter than Rick Farrell, is not in. But you look at all these giants from the 20s and the Cardinals. Guys like Chick Hafey and Jim Bottomley and George Kelly and Fred Lindstrom. These are all guys that Frisch put in, and they have, as I said, they have as much business having a plaque up there as I do.
Yeah. Well, that would have put in Bottomley, who had 6 consecutive years of 120 RBIs in the 1920s. Bottomley I would have put in, but the others no, who you mentioned. What's it, a matter of opinion?
A load of these kind of guys. But,
I know the Giants and the Cardinals were worse.
I think in my era, the guys that I saw, I think Enos Slaughter was an undeserving Hall of Famer.
I wouldn't have put him in because he was a bigot, among other things.
Well there's a lot of
yes,
that.
He was
an incredible bigot. I put that on a picture of Hornsby on Facebook that compared to Hornsby as an individual, Tyko was a saint. That's how bad a person Hornsby was.
Really?
Yeah,
Joe Cronin is in, and Joe Cronin was instrumental in not signing blacks until Pumpsie Green.
Oh, the one was Yawky. And what Tom York, ever since when I heard Yawky got in the same year, I think it was the same year that they put in the Snyder and Al K-line. I heard Yawky got in, and I've been ranting about that ever since.
O'Malley got in, and that doesn't please me.
He owned the team for 50 years, and they never won it. They won 3 pennants in the World Series. And it took them 90 years to put Jake Rupert in.
Well, I heard that Yawkey went in because he gave millions of dollars to pay for the new wing of the Hall of Fame.
Probably.
So he was rewarded for charitable contribution.
Yeah, like the way they buy politicians now. So.
Right.
Well. Okay, guys. We are definitely going to wrap it up. We are definitely against program on that.
Is this going to be downloaded on Facebook?
It's going to be downloaded every place. I'm going to make my a personal effort. It's going to be downloaded on the bus schedules. You go to get a bus schedule, you'll see the show.
Schedules, the biggest fiction writing of all time.
You make sure you put it on my page and on my trivia page also. My personal page and my trivia page.
I will. And this will go up. It may go up as a double episode because we haven't had the last one we did go up. Might go up tonight as the second of a double segment episode. So,
who was in the other segment?
Yeah. The other segment was the three of us.
Oh, you mean before he came?
Yeah, well, it was a segment we did last week.
Oh, so it's not a segment
Talked
last
a little
week,
bit
right?
before you came, too. It wasn't the same, Ron, but it was great. You understand?
If you have me on again, I'm going to make sure that I'm not on a bus right before that. I'm going to be in my house right before, and I'll take the bus earlier in the day or later in the day, whatever it is. I can't trust the bus. The buses are not reliable.
It worked out perfectly. You were tremendous, and I'm glad you came back. And Mert gave us something else to think about tonight.
What was?
See you next time, Ralph.
All right.
What?
Thanks, Mert. Say hi to Peg. And,
what did he give you to think about? You can't tell me.
We weren't thinking about our Mets tonight while we were talking about all these things. Our Mets have been horrible in the last 3 days, and we just needed a little respite to not make it the center of our conversation. We talked about them a little before you got here.
Ralph, you also gave me a respite from the Pirates.
I understand.
Okay,
and you know what?
They're doing the same thing as the Mets now.
I'm just guessing because my only goal is that anybody who comes on has half as much fun as I do. And I know that both of you, my co-hosts, are having fun with this. And I'm glad to bring you on, Ron, again, and you get to have some fun, too.
Yeah, right. Now, though, if we go another 6 months or a year without you calling me back, I'll think it was because I was late this time.
No.
You'll probably have me on again.
If we let me put it to you this way: if we go another 6 months or you could just say he's a pretty good producer after all. Look at it that way.
Yes.
No, I'm only kidding, Ron.
You know, a lot of my friends were they're very glad to hear me, particularly those on Facebook who haven't met me. A lot of people, they were glad to hear me the last time.
And I want you to repost it wherever you can. And we'll have you back one way or the other if nobody listens, Ron, because I
tell my friends when I'm on.
What do you mean nobody's going to listen? People are going to listen.
Yeah,
of course.
People are interested in baseball.
Absolutely.
I tell them to post. To look for the post on
silly jokes too,
uncomfortably zoned, so they can listen to your podcasts other than the ones that I'm on, the ones with Sam Zervitz and the ones with Peter Golenbach, and I try to push everything you put out there, Ralph.
I know you do, Alan. You're a big supporter, and I love you for it. Believe me. We're just getting started on this. We've been doing it as a network for 4 months. Got like 7, 8 shows going. Everybody is contributing high quality stuff. We're getting great guests, and I am so delighted to work with you guys.
What do you have, one a week or even more than one a week on?
Me? I have one on every. The network has a new podcast every day. There's a new podcast.
Yeah, I see.
It's unlike sort of like Sirius Radio, like SIR.
No, we're not all that serious.
I mean, it's not conventional radio.
Yes, it's not. It's internet radio. It's not like Sirius. It's like because Sirius is radio. This is internet radio, which is a podcast on MP3, and it's out there. And every show we do is archived on YouTube. So if you ever want to look back on the shows that you were either on or co-hosted or anything, you just type my name in when you get to YouTube, and then your name. And all the shows that you were on will definitely come up.
Like I mentioned, Bill Hall, you said you said his shows could be accessed from the past.
Yeah, all the shows Comfortably Zoned Radio Network can be accessed by going to my YouTube channel, which is Ralph Tyko, Tyko, and you just type in the show you were on or the subject or whatever it is. If you typed in, for instance, Alan Blumkin, Ralph Tyko on YouTube, you get the shows you were on, Alan. They'd all come up. It's an amazing thing, this computer stuff. We only had an abacus when I grew up.
I remember around in college a portable typewriter and tons of whiteout.
I know people out there are thinking, ha, 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 didn't have an abacus. Mert, we had an abacus at PS 148, right?
We did.
So if you consider it this way, it's a privilege to live as long as we have. I don't look at it like, oh, he's so old he had an abacus. It's an absolutely privilege to be alive.
Yeah, and I learned how to do basic math from the backs of baseball cards.
Well, I know the three of us have passed 70.
I'm still working on that. I'm going to pull out some cards. That's a great way to practice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You mean baseball cards?
No, baseball cards. I'm going to learn some math while I'm at it. What the hell? I got nothing else to do. Just talk ball all day.
Right.
I might as well learn some math
and start figure out the ERA.
Yeah. Long division is not out of the question.
Yeah. Once I got algebra and trigonometry and geometry,
that you just lost about. Just that. Let's keep my goals. Not as lofty as all of that.
The minute the Regents was over, I forgot that stuff.
Okay. You took the Regents.
Oh yeah.
Just remember who you're talking to here.
Okay.
I did learn betting pools as a super senior from Seymour Myers. So high school was good for a lot of stuff. And we did get that walking in every morning for 4 straight years, Mert. The Newtown walk.
Yeah.
The Newtown pace. That was
because I live across the street from a school, and when they let the school out, there's 1 million kids waiting to get picked up by their parents in cars. I mean, when I went to grade school and junior high school, it was always walking. I used to walk to high school, and if the weather was lousy going to high school and back, I would take a bus for a nickel.
There were times your mom would drive us occasionally, Mert, when it was when the weather condition was so bad. But I can remember going, we have to stop and duck into buildings every block or so. It was 2 degrees below with the windshield factor and all that. It was some cold stuff in New York.
Yeah, and my high school, I went to Martin Van Buren, and anytime there was a lot of rain, the front of the school would be totally flooded. You have to go in through the back.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was.
Ralph, what college did you go to, Ralph?
Well, I went to Solano Junior College, where I played tennis, and took one anthropology course. So now I went to out here. I went to Solano Junior College when I was in the Air Force, and in Vallejo, I was stationed in Fairfield, in Northern California. For all of you people out there who give a rat's ass about my education.
Well, I asked about it. I normally ask people about it. I went to Queens College.
You went to Queens, and you majored in mathematics, I'm guessing.
No, I majored in accounting because I was told I'm better off going for a specific profession. But I minored in statistics, and statistics became my career with the city government.
Ah. Did you ever hear the expression, statistics don't lie, statisticians do?
Oh, well, I heard how to lie with statistics. The statistics could prove anything.
Okay. Yes, I'm sure they can.
Right.
8 out of 10
Ralph,
times.
do you pay much attention to my trivia page or not?
Of course I do.
Because you don't try to answer many questions.
I don't try to answer because they're so complex. You have questions that are incredible. That's why I'm glad we kept it nice and human today. We talked about some trivia that we all had a chance at getting.
Well, sometimes if I ask a five or six part question, there's a few in there that are very easy.
Yeah, this guy Eric Bain who constantly posts war lists, and I could care less about war lists.
I'm not into that at all. I don't post that.
I know. A lot of times that I'm off for a while, and then I look at some of the stuff that's on your page. It's too late.
Tell us about the page you're on before we go, because your page is on Facebook. It's trivia and statistics. Baseball trivia?
That's my page, right.
That's your page. It's an excellent page. And it helps me get through the day. That's all I can
That's what a lot of people have said, right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Baseball's a terrific thing. We have some great memories. I enjoy this. Thank you, guys. I'm going to tell everybody out there to hang in there, to keep on keeping on, and we're going to be back next week. This will be posted tonight with last week's episode, and I'm going to send links to everybody. Fair enough?
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Very good. Send it to my trivia page.
And Mert,
next time.
it is pretty cool after all these years, huh?
And to you and Mert, since the Mets don't play the Pirates anymore this season, if the Mets win every single game the rest of the year, I will not get bothered by it.
And I wouldn't be I told you my Sid Thrift story. I befriended Sid Thrift before he became general manager of the Pirates. And when he became general manager, I called him up. I told him I'm a Met fan. I will never root for the Pirates because I'm a Met fan. He said, all I want is a little piece of your heart. Yeah. That's what he said. So he got it. And at that time, he had Barry Bonds, Andy Van Slyke in the outfield at the same time. Yeah. He done good, did Sid. Rest in peace, Sid Thrift, and thank you, everybody, for a great show. See you next week, everybody.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye, Mert.